The energy expert Adil Nchabeleng now joins us via video link to weigh in on the City of Johannesburg's new tariff introduced earlier this month. That tariff, of course, will see prepaid users in Johannesburg cough up 200 Rand extra payment on electricity per month. Adil, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on the SABC at this hour.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much.
Adil, the rationale behind the tariff by City Power and residents, is it justified from your vantage point? Help us explore that further.
I don't think the rush is justified, given the fact that there hasn't really been any NASA approval with regards to literally giving the increase. One being the fact that this is a surcharge. It does not relate to really the generation of electricity or the aspect of distribution or transmission. It actually just relates to municipalities trying to find an additional amount of money that they need for their operations. And they are now literally taxing the consumers and imposing a surcharge onto it, So it's not quite justified at all that we are seeing a situation where there is now this rise in electricity cost on the basis that they are doing an artificial increase on tariff charges without NERSA's approval.
What about concerns about the manner in which it was communicated, just on the back of the sentiments echoed, the disjuncture between the city's MMC for finance versus the contrast to the mayor, Kabelo Gwamanda? What's coming through on that front?
I think there's been a lot of residents protest, as well as people and communities complaining that, look, for every recharge, if you're going to be charged 200 Rands per pop, it means that people are effectively not going to be able to actually afford electricity and will not have access to services such as electricity. So that is why you're having this pushback coming out of communities, and justifiably so, because it's actually literally dialed up the cost of electricity artificially so, and without having even done due consultation. So I think that the current issue between the city as well as the province has been on the basis that it's going to have a high impact as well as a devastating effect onto the economy and people in general. 200 Rand on a recharge basis is not a small amount of money, given the fact that most communities, 200 to 400 Rand is the most they could afford, and then on a monthly basis with regards to recharge on electricity. So when you're giving them another half of that cost in terms of surcharges, you're literally killing them. There are ways to actually enhance revenue to ensure that you can have revenue assurance, but using a backdoor tax in order to tax consumers is quite unfair.
Because Adil, questions about how this is obviously now going to be impacting prepaid users. A question about how many are registered, and we'll have to fork up this amount. But obviously the concerns amongst residents, advocacy groups that have also come to the fore, looking at what are some of the other avenues, alternatives that could be explored. Has that been factored in? What else could be considered?
Look, this tax is like a sinful tax, so there's no really justification for it, where you are actually imposing a surcharge on something that is not even justifiable. This should just be dropped and should not even be entertained, because it does not form part of the overall system's cost. It does not form the of electricity tariff. So it is a surcharge applied by municipalities in order to enhance their own revenues and to give themselves off this obscene, salaries as well as pay hikes. So I don't think it makes any sense for any reason to even be trying to bring on board this level of taxes in terms of the electricity cost. It's already high enough as it is and should be considered to be reduced. So consumers should be given an opportunity to say, we don't want this surcharge. Already, if you're buying prepaid today, you're already charged a surcharge from all sorts of people, distributors, the retailer, you're being charged by the municipalities, you're being charged by your estate that is managing that particular recharge, voucher system. So everybody else is just literally loading up onto consumers. But what they are not taking into consideration is the overall long-term impact in terms of the economy and the people and people's incomes in terms of literally having to earn this extra additional income to afford electricity tariffs.
No, absolutely. And obviously also looking at the energy distribution that will be affected at a municipal level if this does come into effect. What's that going to look like on the ground? And speaking about that reality, the financial repercussions, the implications, especially on the most vulnerable, given the economy and the growth rate as well. What do you want to highlight in that front particularly?
Look, the economy is already ailing, Lizzo. And we don't have an overperforming economy. We're sitting at 1.8, at actually 0.8% in terms of economic growth. The more you're going to be taxing the consumers, knowing very well that Gauteng, Johannesburg is one of the economy's most bustling, region. And if you're going to now be imposing this unnecessary, unneeded tax onto the consumers, what more other impact is it going to have on all other costs? It's going to impact transport, it's going to impact aspect of distribution, it's going to impact the food side of it, it's going to impact the, heating side of it, it's going to impact everything that actually is economy related. So I don't think it was well thought. It might have been opportunistic in the sense that municipalities as well as the city power might have seen an opportunity to extract more value in terms of the electricity distribution, but they have not thought out. There was no feasibility study done to say if, for instance, we have 5 million customers on our data books, how is it going to impact them on the long run? And what is it going to do in terms of the economy? 200 Rand is not a small amount of money. In most people, it's an increase on an annual basis of a 5% to a 6%, annual increase on their salaries.
No, Adil, we're obviously monitoring those developments because we are awaiting that briefing that has been postponed to a date that's yet to be mentioned. Let's leave the conversation there for now. Thank you for your time at this hour, for weighing in. Adil Nchabeleng, really just chatting to us. He's an energy expert, chatting to us about the City of Johannesburg's introduction of a new tariff, the implications, and really the approval, some of the concerns that have been raised by NGOs and consumers alike, given the impact this is going to have on the already financially constrained users. So thanks to Adil for joining us at this hour.